Welcome to another edition of the Undisputed Wrestling Show. I am the bearded wonder, Zane Paisley. My host with me this evening is none other than the incredible Huck, Will Huckabee. How you doing, Huck?
I'm doing good, man. Doing great. Had a great weekend of shows. Having a great week. I'm really busy being an adult this week and stuff, man. But I'm looking forward to tonight's show and then heading into the weekend.
Well, I definitely want to talk to you about Atlantic Wrestling Entertainment after we talk with our first guest. So we got something to look forward to talking about. But to start off the show, we have the XICW Hall of Fame inductee and the current number 480 in the PWI 500. We've got with us amazing Nate Mattson. Nate, how you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on with us. We want to give a shout out to our brother Drew Skills for hooking us up with you. We really look forward to talking with you. Now, I know that in November is your 20th year of in-ring competition, but what got you started in the world of professional wrestling? Were you just a fan as a child, or how did you get entertained by this?
Well, I like to look at it as it was fate. It's just kind of one of those things where all these certain signs were pointing that I should get involved with pro wrestling. I grew up a fan, probably 10 years old, just a big fan of Macho Man Randy Savage, loved Saturday morning wrestling, and when I was a kid, I used to skateboard. I still do, but I'd skateboard by this gym called Powerhouse Gym where I grew up, 3 blocks from my parents' house, and every time that WWE would come to Joe Louis Arena or whatever in Michigan, they'd always work out at this gym. So as a little kid, I'd be rolling by the window and I'd see, Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels and the $1 Million Man and all these guys working out, like right in front of me. And it was just crazy to think that they were in my hometown, working out. And as story has it, that gym used to have pro wrestling training for a lot of the local independent guys in the early 80s. So it's just kind of weird that in my hometown, and then we had some other wrestlers that grew up in my hometown. So it's just kind of a weird fate-like thing that drew me to it. But yeah, man, I kept digging into it and found out more about it, and then eventually it led to me getting into the business.
Well, okay, I'm going to go off on a tangent here for just a moment. You were a skater kid. Are you into punk rock music?
Yes. They kind of go hand in hand. They're kind of, the roots of skateboarding and the roots of punk rock are very, not so much anti-establishment, but just more of DIY, do-it-yourself, kind of stand up for yourself. And so that's kind of like my grassroots upbringing.
Well, you'd mentioned Razor Ramon, running into Razor Ramon at that gym. Are you familiar with a band called the Razor Ramones?
Yes, I actually met those guys probably 2 years ago at Heroes and Legends. And,
okay.
They were cool dudes, and they sound great. I like their sound.
Awesome. They're buddies of mine, so I wanted to point out to you if you hadn't heard of them before. So up in Detroit, then they were doing some training at the local gym. Is that who trained you?
No. So what happened was I'm watching Saturday morning wrestling, and there's a commercial comes on, and it's really low budget, and it's not like it's what caught my eye is that it was really grainy, poor quality, but it was these guys yelling about some upcoming show, and they were called the International Freedom Fighters, which they were Chris Carter and Muhammad Saad, which are a local independent tag team, and they're talking about Midwest Territorial Wrestling in Taylor, Michigan, and it totally blew my mind because I lived close to Taylor. I thought, how is there other wrestling out there besides WWF? Because I'm just, but at this point I'm in high school and, I have my license. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to drive to this show and check it out. So, I went to the first show. The show that I just missed the previous month was Sabu versus Terry Funk. And I was so upset that I missed it because I didn't know who either of those guys were. But looking back, that would have been a great introduction. But the first show I went to had Al Snow, it had Marty Jannetty, it had Brad Armstrong, it had Bruiser Bedlam, who was Johnny K-9 in the WWF. It had just a bunch of old timers. It had Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, before he was Mankind, all that. This is like, probably 94. And so this, a lot of these guys I was seeing for the first time. So yeah, it's just, it's kind of like a weird snowball effect. Like I fell in love with Al Snow. I thought Al Snow was the man. He was, this was before his Smoky Mountain days, and he was tearing it up on the independents. He was the champion in all the Michigan promotions. He was all, he's from Lima, Ohio, which wasn't far. So, I just became a big fan of his. And then, I found this book by, Percy Pringle III about how to get into the pro wrestling business. I think I mailed away for it. And Al Snow's school was listed as one of the schools that you could train in, because there wasn't very many schools back then. This was, 94, 95. And so I sent away for the application to Al Snow's Body Slammers gym. And, long story short, I almost filled out the application, almost sent it in. And then where I was working at the time, I worked at this, the very first Kmart ever. I'm sure you have Kmart wherever, but the very first Kmart where I grew up, I worked there on midnights. And I'd come in early to watch, Nitro and Raw or whatever was on at the time. I think it was just Raw. I don't think even Nitro was on in the air at the time. And my manager kept saying, "Oh, why are you watching this crap, blah, blah, blah." And so I said, "I want to be a wrestler." I had made up my mind, that I wanted to do this because I saw the independent guys. So, and I was going to send the application away. So he said, he kind of led me on, and then after a while, he's like, "You still want to do this stuff? You really want to be a wrestler?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Come with me." So I go into his office, and he shows me all these posters and pictures and flyers of all these, George the Animal Steel and a lot of the local Michigan talent that came out of here. And I was like, "Wait a minute. You've been telling me this whole time that, what am I doing here?" And he secretly was a promoter years ago, but he didn't want to smarten me up to it. And so finally he gave me a number. I convinced him. I said, "You got to help me get into this." So he gave me a phone number for this guy named Iron Mike Anthony, who was a local guy. And so Iron Mike Anthony, I call him, he's like, "Meet me at Burger King in East Point, bring $300. So I'm like, okay. So, I'm still in high school. I have a part-time job. $300 is a lot for a teenager. So, I'm probably 18 and almost turning 19 at the time. So finally, I had my mom write a check for me. So it's like, okay, it's a legit business transaction. So I meet up with Iron Mike at and by the way, Iron Mike, he was probably 300 pounds, but he was only about 5'5". And I've only seen a headshot of him at previous, because I saw the picture of him in his manager's office. And when I met him for the first time, he's wearing a leather jacket, Daisy Duke cutoff shorts, and gym shoes. So I was a little taken aback at my first meeting of a local pro wrestler. But so he buys me a Coke and I think a large fry. We talk some business. I give him the check, and he doesn't know I'm paying by check. He goes, "If this check bounces, so will you." So I'm like, okay, no, it's good. It's my mom's. I don't want him going after my poor mother. But so anyway, he gives, I give him the check. He gives me the phone number to a guy that I was watching on the independents. His name was Irish Mickey Doyle, who, is a local legend here. He's wrestled all over the world, but in Detroit especially, he wrestled for the Sheik. He used to work for Bruno out in Pittsburgh. He teamed with Bruno in Japan. He did 10 years in the LA territory, working, Oregon, all that, out there on the West Coast. So, Mickey Doyle, I knew a lot about him just from the independents that I was going to that year previously. So, I just called Mickey Doyle up, and he said, "Hey, get some knee pads, come on over to Windsor, Windsor, Ontario." So I'm like, okay, well, there goes my idea for going to Al Snow's school. And, because Al's school was, I think it was like a 12-week course. You had to move into his dorms, which I was fine with, and the price was very affordable. But, where I live, Windsor, Ontario, is only like a half hour, and they were only training twice a week. So I figured, this might be a little bit better. I won't have to move for, 12 weeks. I can still keep my job. So I just decided to go along with that. And, I'd already seen Scott D'Amore, because he was working the indies at the time, and a lot of the guys that came out of there, and even Rhino had graduated from the school about a year before, 95. because this is by this time it was about early '96, and I finally started training, just about not even a year out of high school. So yeah, then I got to meet everybody there and started my training. But Irish Mickey Doyle is the man that really broke me into the business. So long story short, it's just crazy how it all kind of fell into place.
Well, I definitely have more questions for you, but I'm going to kick it over to the incredible Huck, Will Huckabee, who was also at that same Heroes and Legends that you were at.
Oh, great.
No, I don't think he remembers me much, Zane. I'm kind of, forgettable.
I wouldn't say that.
You've got your own podcast. That's about, you're definitely memorable. So.
Well, first of all, Nate, thanks for being a guest on the show, man, and congratulations, on your ranking on the PWI 500.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad to be here and talk a little bit about my career here. 20 years coming up, and it's cool to be a part of the PWI 500. That exposure and recognition. A lot of guys either take it really personal or they just kind of don't take it either here nor there. It's a nice little gesture on the PWI's part to include as many people as they can. So it's cool.
I'm so glad that you're a guest on the show because this is my first year actually being recognized in the PWI 500 stuff, and I go to post basically reminiscing about when I was a kid and stuff. When I was a teenager, how I used to love when that magazine would come out, and I would really focus on numbers 300 to 500 and stuff because those were the guys who weren't in WWE or weren't in WCW and stuff, and those are the guys that I might have a chance to see in my local armory or high school or whatever. And I definitely remember, I went back to my mom's house last week and was listening to a couple of old issues because, I'm a pack rat and I don't throw anything away. And I definitely remember seeing, I went back and seeing them in, countless issues of the PWI 500 and stuff. But with that being said, I want to ask you my first question and stuff. You're coming up on 20 years. How do you stay in shape? How hard or how difficult do you find it is now, to keep up with a lot of the young guys that are coming in and stuff, what Jim Clinton likes to call the flippy dude guys and stuff. How do you keep up with these guys?
That's a great question because it's something that, as far as staying in ring shape, I just try to stay active, and I still actually to this day, I'm involved with any part of a school. Like if one school isn't open, I'll go. Like if I have even during the week, if I have a couple matches during the weekend, I'll take at least one day during the week, like a Wednesday, and hit up a local school, like either the House of Truth by Truth Martini or the Can-Am Wrestling School in Windsor where I started. They're actually kind of revamping their whole program, and they're going to a 12-week system too. And they're starting this week. So I go over there about once a week just to kind of get some ring time, work with the young guys, and just try to stay and moving, keep moving. But as far as keeping up with the younger guys, my style, it hasn't really changed much in the last 20 years. When I started, the WCW cruiserweights were my size, the smaller guys, because I stay around 175 to 190, depending on, just how I'm feeling. But, I always stay, and plus my frame is just that cruiserweight frame. But, I don't do anything crazy. I was never really a big high flyer. If I was, it was more of Brian Pillman or, Owen Hart, where it was more just, cross bodies or missile drop kicks. And I've done a top rope leg drop for many years. And so I never really did stuff that was flippy or moonsaulty or, things like that. Cause I felt, I've seen a lot of guys get injured doing moves countless, over and over again, laying on their knees, just a lot of different injuries. So I've always tried to play it safe and do moves that, are going to look good, but don't hurt me in the long run. And so I've made some alterations to my style over the years and changed things up. But, I was actually in a good place where I got to see a lot of the guys that, I wouldn't say so much flippy, but some of the X Division guys and the Ring of Honor guys from the Detroit area. I got a chance to work with those guys when they were very young. When Chris Sabin was 18, he came into our school because we had an NWA Michigan school, and I kind of helped him out. and then I took him over to Can-Am, and we kind of finished his training there. And then right after him came Alex Shelley, then Petey Williams. Of course, then, right before those guys came in, we had Jimmy Jacobs and then Zach Gowen. So, I have been very fortunate to kind of just be the guy that was right before them, and then they started coming up, so I had a lot of great guys to work with and, kind of help develop, as they were coming up, and then they just kind of took it and ran, which was very cool to see because I'm still close to a lot of those guys. And, it's just a matter of just altering things and always keeping, your eye on what's kind of current, but yet still staying true to what you were, because I have that old school training. Like I said, Mickey Doyle, he was the 1970 NWA Rookie of the Year. So, as far as the psychology and just a lot of the little aspects of the business that, kind of get lost over the time, I had a lot of really strong foundation in the old school. So, it's kind of cool. I kind of see myself as the bridge from the old school Mickey Doyles to the Chris Sabins, where, I'm kind of that one guy, that link in the chain. So yeah, it's different. It's definitely I kind of have to kind of sit on the fence a little bit and play with it, but it just keeps me on my toes, and I try my best to stay up with these kids. But
sure, it's so cool that you just said that you consider yourself the bridge between the old school, quote unquote old school style of wrestling and today's more athletic based wrestling and stuff. When you're in the locker room and stuff, and a lot of these younger, greener guys come up and stuff, and of course, I'm going to go ahead and assume that whenever you have to work with somebody who has, 5, maybe 10 years of experience and stuff, it's a very intimidating situation for them to be in. What's your thought process when putting together a match, when working with these younger guys and stuff? What do you, in your mind, what's going through your mind and stuff as far as what you want to do, how do you want to build them up, how you want to get yourself over the business of the match, etc.?
That's a really good question, because I get in a situation a lot of times where I'm very loose with what I want to do. I know my style, I know the moves I want to do, and I know where they'll fit, just from experience. I know how to gauge a crowd, I know how to listen to the crowd. And what I find is some of these guys that come in, they have their spots and they have their own match that they like to do. And what I find is that their matches, and this is not a knock on them, it's just that they when you work with a lot of younger guys, because you can only get better by working with guys better than you and guys that are more experienced than you. So, but if you're working with guys with the same amount of experience, you can learn from each other, but there's going to be kind of a plateau, especially when it comes to the psychology or selling or timing, because I see a lot of great young guys that can do so many awesome things, and they just, they rapid fire shoot off all these moves one after the other. But then the one thing that they're missing is if they just paused for a moment, if they just stopped for a second here, if they sold this longer. Those are things that you can't really tell them, but as you're putting a match together, I try to. I say, hey, now, make sure you sell that, or, take your time on this. Don't rush that. But I find a lot of times the young guys, they'll have some stuff that's really predictable. And it's not their fault. It's just that that's what they know, and they've done it over and over again. So where they might do it in a different town, which is fine. But it's I like to listen to the crowd and kind of see okay, we definitely need to slow it down here. Let's speed it up here. Let's get some heat here. Let's kind of. So I go by feel. It's just because that's the way I was taught. And I've tried to put matches together where we plan out every little thing, and then the biggest problems are somebody forgets something, or you're doing something that's great, but then the crowd isn't ready for it. So they're not going to react the way you thought they would, just because you haven't really told a story yet. So, it's really, I try to get these guys to just kind of take a step back and say, look, I know you guys are used to doing all this. I go, but, let's just kind of do something a little different this time. And so I try to be very, giving to them. I want them to have a good match, and I want them to feel like they're having a really good match. But I also want to kind of like show some little things to them that they might not have seen or have ever done before. And then it's kind of cool because then you can kind of see them kind of like thinking about stuff where they normally wouldn't. So, I mean, it's just, and I learn a lot too from working with younger guys too, because they're always up on, what are the trendy spots, or what are, because, there's so much stuff that comes out every year that, okay, now the guys are doing stuff on the aprons, and guys are doing fun stuff, using the ropes, and, just different variations and ways, and they're using the ring skirt, and, like, it's like little stuff like that where they're being really creative, which I really enjoy. But then it's like, okay, well, let's not waste that. Let's see if we can get mileage out of this, and let's see if we can, get the most out of every little thing. So
now I got one more question before I pass it back to Zane. Of course, I got, like Zane said, we have dozens of questions for you and stuff. But my last question before pushing it back to Zane is this: with the current product on TV and stuff, and especially everybody's watching WWE. You said right now you try to keep it around 190 pounds at 5'10", which is my height and stuff. I weigh almost 100 pounds. But anyway, that's beside the question. With the WWE champion, or the former WWE Universal Champion, Finn Balor, weighing, 180 pounds, and then with AJ Styles being right around the 210, 220 range and stuff, do you feel that WWE really needs a cruiserweight division, or do you think that professional wrestling has evolved past weight classes?
Yeah, I mean, the way the business has, if you look at the 70s and the 80s, when I grew up watching wrestling, wrestlers are huge. And whenever I'm on shows with Hacksaw Jim Duggan or Jake the Snake or, even Kevin Nash, I mean, he's huge, but, that used to be the norm. Guys used to be so big, and, 1, 2, 3 Kid or, X-Pac, who, is at least 6 feet, who was small at the time. So, now you're getting guys, of course, Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and Benoit and all these guys were 5'8", and they were muscular, so they still had the size, but they were short, and that's why they didn't get that push for so long until eventually they worked so hard that you couldn't deny them that opportunity, and which opened up a lot of doors, because even Brett and Shawn were, smaller guys, probably 220, 230, but still 6 feet, 6'1", and I mean, it's just a matter of, how they used to recruit. They used to recruit football players, power lifters, guys that just looked larger than life, and the personalities, the promos. Like, you looked at Dusty Rhodes, he didn't have a great body, but man, his gift of gab and his charisma, and there was those types of guys and performers that could just suck the people into the building. Or you had the visual guys that, you just looked at him and you said, man, I got to buy a ticket to see that guy. Like superstar Billy Graham, who had both. He had the body and the mouth. So, I mean, it's just the way the business has just totally evolved, where it's more athletic based, because you've really taken a lot of the charisma out of the business. If you really, really look at the business as a whole, the guys that are very charismatic, they're not really as charismatic as they were, like a Flair, a Macho Man. Think about who out there now is like a Macho Man. There's nobody. I mean, he was so over the top. There's nobody that comes out like a Ric Flair that just has that, charisma and that presence about him. So, I mean, it's just really different how, we've changed a lot of the ways of how we, perceive wrestling, which is nothing wrong with that. It's more athletic based, like you mentioned. But, I mean, as far as the guys, they're so much smaller now, and, what's the point in weight classes? To get around your question, I know I'm kind of spitballing here, but I think it's just ways to get guys noticed and then move them up onto the main roster. Because NXT, Nakamura's he's kind of tall, but he's still not a big guy. He's very lean. That NXT title is kind of like an open weight title. There's no real weight limit there, because with Finn holding it and Sami Zayn. And then to have this Cruiserweight Classic, which all those guys are, for the most part, a lot smaller. If you look at just the size of them, there's not really any taller guys, or heavier guys. They're all about the same size. So, it's just, I think it's just a way to get them noticed. But, like you said, to call AJ a heavyweight, I mean, I think world champion is a suitable title. You know, the fact that he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's hard to distinguish, you know, who's who as far as weight classes, but, you know, overall, I think it's just a necessary thing to kind of highlight certain people, and then before you move them on to their next level.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. You can check us out at www.theundisputedswrestlingshow.weebly.com. And obviously, you want to check out Angry Marks Podcast Network. If you subscribe like I do on my iPhone, you can hit the podcast app and search Angry Marks, all one word, and hit the subscribe button. You get a bunch of great shows delivered to your phone almost every day. And you can also do that through an Android device through the Double Pod app. So definitely check out Angry Marks, all one word. Click it and subscribe. We are talking with amazing Nate Mattson. And Nate, thank you so much for being on the show with us tonight once again. You were just talking about AJ Styles, and I know you have a personal history with AJ. Can you let our listeners know about that?
Oh, well, sure. Let's see. I think it was about around 2003. I was working for a company called IWR, the Independent Wrestling Revolution, which was like a really big promotion here in Detroit. It was pretty much like a punk rock and wrestling show ran by the Bumpin' Uglies, which now one of the members, he went on to become Mysterious Movado. Very cool guy. They brought in AJ, just TNA was starting out, and they started bringing in, actually probably in the Michigan area, they're the first company to start bringing in TNA guys, because there was NWA TNA, and we had brought in, I think the Flying Elvises, I think we brought in Estrada, and a couple other guys like that, Sonny Siaki, and yeah, I was called the King of the Indies for the IWR, and I held that belt, and I was in a stable called The Threat, and we had Briar Wellington and Anthony Rivera and a couple other guys. Truth Martini was a part when he would wrestle. And they brought in AJ, and he got a title shot. And so I had heard a lot of things about AJ. I hadn't met him before. I saw him. I went down to the NWA 52nd anniversary convention, anniversary show in Nashville in the year 2000. And he was there just, I think he'd only been about 2 years in the business. I got booked on a match to represent NWA Michigan, and he was representing NWA Wildside. And, he tore it up. That's when people started to kind of take notice of him and, as being like the golden child. And then eventually, a couple of years later, 2003, he's in TNA. And this is before he, I think he might have been X Division champion at least at one point, but he hadn't won the world title yet for NWA. So, Movado had booked me against AJ, which was really cool because, I felt honored that, they'd bring in this guy to work with me because I'd been working probably about 7 years at that point. And, we hit it off because, I'm a Christian, born again Christian, and I had read things where AJ's born again Christian. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just kind of strike up a conversation with him. And we hit it off right away, and we just kind of chatted and, put our match together, and we kind of prayed before we went out there. And, we had a little angle set up where we knew he wasn't coming back, but we knew that, if we kind of put the belt on him, it would kind of elevate the title and, it would be good for business for Detroit. So we did a thing where he beat me with a Styles Clash, and, my manager came out and he said, hey, we know you can't be here. You've got, prior commitments to TNA, so you're going to have to defend that title right now. So, he gives me the Styles Clash again. He was celebrating, so he dropped the belt. I grabbed the belt. He goes to get me in the Styles Clash. I sit up, bam, I whack him in the face with the belt, fall on top of him, 1, 2, 3, so I regain the title. Well, the problem was I whacked him hard. I hit him pretty hard, right in the bridge of the nose. And it busted him open, and, unintentional, just a total accident, just came up swinging. And it looked good for the help the match because the people bought it like, wow, he got him good. But, he gets carried out, and he was hot at me, because he had just met me. We hit it off really well, but we get to the back, and he explains to me, he's like, dude, I'm wrestling Jarrett this weekend for the title. I'm going to have 2 black eyes and a broken nose. So he wasn't very happy with me at that point. But, once he cleaned it up a little bit, he realized that it was fine and he wasn't broken. And so he forgave me. And after that point, I'd start seeing him all over. I'd see him in Chicago. I'd see him in Philly. I'd see him in Windsor. I'd see him, he'd come back to Michigan. I'd see him in Ohio. So I started seeing him, and then we would just, we'd go out to eat, we'd share a hotel room or whatever, and then, one time I even took him to church with me. So it's just a cool, good buddy of mine that, like one of those guys that you might not see for a while, but then when you do see each other, it's like you never, time never passed. So, just really cool dude, and he is who he is. I mean, like, you can't really say a bad thing about him. I've never seen him have a bad match. I don't think anyone has. So he gave me, that's probably one of my best matches ever in my top 5, and I've wrestled a lot of really good guys. So, I can't say enough good about AJ.
Now, being the awesome veteran that you are, is there any chance that you'll show up on Raw to take on Bo Dallas or Braun Strowman or any of those guys, since they are starting to use more enhancement matches lately?
Yeah, no, I'd love that. I did some extra work in February. I got to do got to be a little doctor, help Roman Reigns when he got busted open. So, it's like, I'm definitely down for all that. I've had a match with them before, way back in '07. So, I know a couple people there that could probably help me out, but I'm definitely open to the suggestion, and obviously who wouldn't be? I think that'd be a cool thing to do. So yeah, anytime.
Well, September 25th is going to be Clash of Champions. I live in Indianapolis, so I'd love to see you there if they can bring you down. Speaking of Indiana, I had the pleasure of calling one of your matches against GQ, Gavin Quinn, for Wrestling for Warriors. It was a great event put on by Wrestling for Warriors, big fundraiser for him. How did you get hooked up with him?
Well, Zach Gowen, like I stated earlier, he used to, like, I have such a history with all the guys that came out of Michigan, like Zach Gowen, because, he was trained by Truth Martini, but, like, to pay dues and to kind of get used to everything, he used to be actually a one-legged referee before he even had his first match. So he would referee a lot of my matches, like even with Jimmy Jacobs, and he was like 15 years old, he'd referee my matches. So I've known Zach forever, and I remember when he went to TNA, and they were going to sign him, but then kind of WWE kind of saw him, and they kind of snatched him up. But Zach, very special guy, very good friend of mine. I've seen him go through so much. If you get his DVD that Joe Dombrowski put out, half of it is either involving me or against me, or so. It's half Zach Gowen, half Nate Mattson, but it's just cool because he got hooked up with Greg Iron, and so Greg and him formed the Handicap Heroes, and I have a long history with Greg. I wrestled him a lot for Prime Wrestling in Ohio. And so yeah, they asked me to come in, and GQ is another guy trained by Truth Martini. He's only a couple years in the business, but he has a really good head on his shoulders. He's starting to get out more. He's traveling, and so yeah, I was really happy to be a part of that match, and especially that event, because I think that they did a lot of good for that charity that they were supporting and helping out, and I hope that the future will have a lot more of those events, and they can help a lot more people.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. Greg Iron asked me to come down and help out, and I thought I was going to be the ring announcer, but they asked me to do commentary, so I was able to call your match with Joe Dombrowski. Also, he was great. He led me through everything, so I want to give a big shout out to Joe.
Yeah, Joe's great. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So you've held around 54 championships in your almost 20-year career. What stands out the most to you? Are there one or two that you're especially proud of, or something that holds significance for you?
Yeah, actually, there's a couple. I mean, like out of Detroit, the IWR title, like I said, I wrestled. I got to work with Mil Mascaris. I got to work with a lot of guys, AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, just a lot of local guys that I got to work with. Jimmy Jacobs, I had an extended feud with, Chris Sabin. So like the IWR titles that I held, even though it was a short-lived promotion, they really gave me a really strong push, and they really encouraged me to kind of find myself. So those hold a special place. XICW, where you mentioned I was inducted into their Hall of Fame, which is a huge honor because XICW is ran by DBA, who is a second-generation wrestler. His father was Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe, and he had the Midwest title in his promotion because Sweet Daddy was a promoter, in the early '90s and late '80s and all that. So, and he carried on this belt where Butch Reed held it, and a couple other notable wrestlers held it, and so I beat Buff Bagwell for the title. I beat Jimmy Jacobs for the Midwest title. So that belt is very special to me. Over in Border City, which is like Canada's probably the number one indie promotion as far as like talent that comes out in the last 20 years, Scott D'Amore's Border City. I've been a two-time tag team champion, one with Truth Martini and one with Danny Daniels, who he runs AAW in Chicago. And then I defeated Petey Williams for the television title there. So in that TV title, a lot of my mentors held that title. So that's a very personal title. But and then also the AAW tag titles with Truth Martini, where we wrestled a lot of great guys, and we even challenged the Motor City Machine Guns for the belt. So it's those 4 or 5 belts really stand out as being special to me.
Well, that is awesome. At this point, I am going to kick it back over to the incredible Huck, Will Huckabee. Will, what else do you have for amazing Nate Mattson?
Well, Nate, I've got to ask you this. I've asked a couple of our past guests and stuff, man. And so I only feel it's right to ask you the same exact question. My first question is, how much longer do you see yourself as an actual in-the-ring performer? And on the uneventful or the unfortunate event that when it's time to hang the boots up and stuff, what does life have for Nate Mattson outside of being an actual in-ring wrestler? Are you going to be a trainer, a booker, a promoter, a talent agent? What's going on with your life after wrestling?
Well, for the first part, I do, I never used to think about, hanging them up. I tried that, a couple years ago. I had a string of injuries. I'm always usually nursing some kind of stupid injury. But, in the past, I've separated my shoulder. I've torn my PCL. I've broken both ankles, so they both have hardware in them. I have had a displaced, fractured thumb, which was really nasty. And then just the other wrestling stuff, the neck, the back, and everything. But, but now as I get older, I'm starting to feel it a little more. Every match is a little bit more, longer to recuperate. So, I would like to go 5 more years, but I don't know if that will happen. I definitely don't see myself slowing down anytime soon because I still try to get at least a match every weekend. Even if it's just one match, sometimes I get 2 to 3, which, then I'm really sore the following week. But, I try to at least stay active, and then I'm always at the school just taking bumps and rolling around with the students, trying to, wrestle them, show them some stuff. But, I think in the future, I do see myself having a school or at least being a co-trainer or at least heavily involved in training at somewhere, whether it be the Can-Am Wrestling School or helping out Truth or whoever needs it, or even starting my own somewhere. I don't know. I don't want to look that too far, but I'd rather just help out. And then I've done some booking in the past. I've dabbled in just putting on some shows and putting on some fundraisers for people, and I really enjoy the creative side of it. I like developing guys, helping them with promos, helping them with just finding themselves as far as who they want to be and portray in the ring. So I could see myself doing just a wide range of stuff, like you mentioned. It's I love the business. Like I said, it's kind of fate that kind of like glued me in here. Like it sucked me in, and I don't see myself really having a life outside of wrestling, like where it's like totally not a part of me. But yeah, I think I'll be involved in at least one of those aspects.
My next question is, who are some of the younger talents that you are very impressed with? If we were putting together, a top 5 list of the top young indie wrestlers coming out of your area and stuff right now, who would those guys be? Actually, make it even tougher. Give us your top 3 favorite new guys that's coming out right now, or your top 3 guys to watch that we're going to be talking about very heavily in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, I hope they're talking about them in the next couple of years. But the guys that are coming out of Detroit specifically, my number one guy is Orlando Christopher. He's been probably working about 10 years, but he started out very young. I had a number of matches with him when he first started, and I've watched him progress, just get so much better. And he used to be really small, and now he's putting on some size. And as far as psychology goes, he has it. As far as knowing how to entertain, how to excite the fans. I mean, he's very well rounded. He also has a very strong amateur background, but he likes to fly. I think what he needs to work on now is his promos. They're believable, but I think he could just get a little bit more out of them. So Orlando Christopher, definitely my number one. And like we mentioned earlier, Gavin Quinn, GQ, that I wrestled at Wrestling for Warriors. He's trained by Truth Martini. He's already wrestled just a handful of top guys, X-Pac, Petey Williams, Sabin, and Rhino. I mean, he's wrestled a lot of guys that come around, that have been around the Detroit area. So he's learned a lot from them, and he's stepping it up. He's starting to travel and get out more. Another guy who's been around a little bit, but no one really knows him too much, his name's Hakeem Zane. He's really, really good. Great promo. Works the modern cruiserweight style, very athletic. He just had a really great match with Matt Cross not too long ago. So those would be my 3 guys: Orlando Christopher, Gavin Quinn, and Hakeem Zane. And definitely there's a lot of other guys that are around, but they're still working their way up. But those 3, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Nate. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back to Zane because I know he wants to get your social info and everything. So, Zane, go ahead and take it away, please.
All right. This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We are talking with amazing Nate Mattson. Now, Nate, you've got some big events coming up very soon. This weekend, I know that you're in Marion, Ohio. Tell us about what you got coming up soon.
Oh, yeah. Yep. The 17th, NWA Midwest. I've made a few trips down there. Really good guys, a lot of great talent. I like going back to my roots again for the NWA. A lot of changes in the NWA with Bruce Starp. I'm from the old school NWA when Bill Behrens was heavily involved back in the day and things like that. But it's cool to just be back into the fold. So I have Dark Star Matt Taylor, who I've wrestled once before. He's an Ohio native. I think that he's going to turn some heads soon. He's one of the young lions that are trying to break out. So that'll be a fun match. I'm really looking forward to that. And then speaking of Joe Dombrowski, on the 18th, Joe is heading up Premier Championship Wrestling. It's out of Turner's Hall in Cleveland, Ohio, which Turner's Hall used to be home of Cleveland All-Pro, which was a legendary promotion run by JT Lightning, God rest his soul. And AIW ran in Turner's Hall after Cleveland All-Pro. So, we're kind of we're taking over the building. We're fixing it up. We're trying to get that fan base established, but we're using a lot of local Cleveland talent, some Pittsburgh talent, Michigan talent, and then trying to mix it all up and see what works. So I've got a young guy just a couple years in, so it's kind of be like veteran taking on rookie of this Sonny Vice. So we'll see how that goes, and I know he's got a little following there, so I'm interested in that. And I've really got a lot of stuff throughout the month. The 24th, I have Blue Water Championship Wrestling. Shark Boy's going to be there. Chris Masters is going to be there. That's in Port Huron, Michigan. And then speaking of XICW earlier, they have a show called Proving Ground, which is kind of like the rookies versus veterans. So I'm on the veteran side, and then we take on, some of the upcoming guys that come out of the House of Truth Wrestling School, some of the guys that might have been overlooked or, maybe passed over, and so they get a shot to kind of make their name to get onto the XICW main roster. So that'd be fun. And then in October, I've got some stuff in Tecumseh, Michigan, from the IBW. Blue Meanie's going to be there. So a lot of stuff coming up. I just try to stay active and busy, and just keep on keeping on.
Well, how can our listeners follow your career and see where you're working? What you're on Facebook as Amazing Nate? That's N8. Tell us about all your other social media.
Yep, yeah, I got a YouTube channel. It should be YouTube, whatever, Amazing Nate. Twitter at Amazing Nate, and it's the letter N, the number 8. That's my little gimmick. I spell Nate with a number. And yeah, so just kind of makes it stand out a little bit. But so yeah, definitely follow me on any of those. And I'm pretty sociable guy. Try to respond to everybody, and appreciate everybody that stops by and gives a like or whatever, anything. I appreciate the involvement and the interaction with the fans, and just try to let them know what's going on and enjoy the wrestling shows that I'm at, and really having fun at this stage of my career, getting to see people like my friends AJ and the Machine Guns, and even Jimmy Jacobs now with Creative, and so a lot of good things, and Truth Martini will probably be back one day in Ring of Honor, so just being there for my friends and just supporting them on and doing the thing.
Well, I know our time is running very short. What do you have to say to your fans listening to you tonight?
I want to say it's been an amazing 20 years. I've done everything and more than I ever imagined. I've wrestled for the big companies. I've wrestled the legends. I've wrestled the up-and-coming guys that have gone on to become world champions. So I couldn't have done that without the people, buying a ticket, cheering, booing, making noise, reacting, and then people just with the encouragement to keep it all going and flowing. I am very grateful to have the career that I've had. It's been a fun ride, and I'm going to keep on going until I can, as long as I can. So it's been really, really fun.
Well, thank you so much, Amazing Nate Mattson, for being on the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We really appreciate it. It was great talking to you, and best of luck this weekend. Thank you very much. This has been a really honor to be on your show, and I'm so grateful to spend some time talking to you. Thank you so much, and God bless. Well, thank you so much. Will, that was a very good conversation with Amazing Nate.
Yeah, it was, man. And I wasn't lying, man. He's been around, obviously for almost 20 years and stuff, man. And whenever you hear about, guys in the Midwest and stuff, and guys in Michigan and Ohio and stuff like that, his name always pops up. Whenever I'm on social media and stuff, man, there's a big show going on. His name is always right there in the mix, along with Troy Miller and Drew and Congo and stuff, man. So it's amazing to have a guy like him on the show.
Now, was he in that Battle Royal with you at Heroes and Legends a couple years ago?
Yes, he was, man. I was actually really nervous, and this is a little inside, a little backstage info for our listeners and stuff. When you got 20 guys for a Battle Royal or whatever, man, everybody wants to shine, everybody wants to get their spots and stuff, and so it's very hard. Most of the time, Battle Royals, they turn into a huge clusterfuck. Excuse my language. And so the best thing that you can do is say, okay, well, who are the last couple guys we want in the Battle Royal, and how are we going to, finagle this to where the finish makes sense and stuff. And Nate, along with Jesus, I can't remember his name, Big Russ Jones and everybody else that was in the match, even though I was a new guy there, they all knew each other and stuff, man. They were very opening to my ideas and stuff. He was very humble and stuff. And they actually let me, put in some info and stuff on how I felt like the Battle Royal Shield ended and stuff, especially the spots that I was involved in. So I'm very grateful for guys like me and stuff, and to him especially for that.
Well, that's awesome. Listeners, I do want to let you know that we will be talking about CM Punk this past weekend and the current WWE product. But before we do that, Will, I wanted to ask you how this past weekend went for you.
This past weekend was pretty good, man. I'm sorry, I had a show and stuff, and had two shows, like I said, in Montgomery, West Virginia, Saturday morning at a fair show, wrestled with Kevin Tyler and stuff, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the best young talents in the state of West Virginia. He has a great look, has a great work ethic and stuff, man. He's super humble. Was trained by Scotty McCreever and Eric Darkstorm, I'm sorry. Was one of the last 40 guys on the most recent edition of Tough Enough and stuff. And I feel like, WWE really missed out with not booking this guy. He has a really old school babyface look and stuff, great looking guy. But we had a really good match and stuff, man. Of course I came out on top because I'm the Incredible Hulk. And and then Sunday night, it was in Racine, West Virginia and stuff, man. I was supposed to wrestle for the Mega Championship this past weekend, but I didn't get to do that. When you look on wrestling shows and stuff on the flyers, of course, there's always that one little line at the bottom that says card is subject to change. And with that being said, the card totally changed. I didn't end up wrestling Eric Darkstorm for the Mega Championship title. I actually ended up wrestling another up-and-coming young guy out of Ohio, the state of Ohio, DeGret Bundles. I want to say his name. He's an older gentleman, but he's very new to the wrestling business and stuff. Has been in the business for maybe like 3.5 years. But has a load of talent. Has a great look, load of talent and stuff. I will go ahead and say has probably one of the best looking elbow drops I've seen in the past 5 years, and I've seen some amazing elbow drops. Now, at one point, I thought that outside of Macho Man Randy Savage, I thought that Damian Wayne had the best elbow drop in the business. But I will say that this young guy might be giving Damian Wayne a run for his money. His elbow drop was just amazingly beautiful. And I know because I was on my back looking up at him coming down. And then, that was it, man. Sunday, I went and hung out with some guys at the USIWF training facility in Kernersville, North Carolina and stuff. They had their monthly student show that they call Warehouse Wars and stuff, and got to really did participate because I was very banged up from the day before, but got to, watch the show, give some critiques and stuff to a lot of green guys, which is something that I really enjoy doing. I really, like Nate said, I really like helping out, new talent, green guys and stuff, and giving them advice and everything. So hung out Sunday, gave some advice and stuff, gave some critiques, and then headed home.
Awesome. Well, I was at let me tell you a little background. On Saturday morning, my kids play soccer, and I am a coach, and I go early to set up the fields. Setting up the fields, I had my iPhone in my jacket pocket. Stormed craziness. We ended up canceling the games, but I was out there in the rain. My phone got wet. It's now destroyed. So I have not had a phone since Saturday, and I have to wait until Friday when the new 7 comes out. So I'm not going to buy another 6 when the 7 comes out this coming week. So I feel naked without my phone. But I had the privilege of announcing for All-Star Pro Wrestling. They had a great event in Shelbyville. It was an outdoor event. Luckily, we missed the rain. But Match of the Night honors goes to Drew Skills versus TJ Kemp. Put on a heck of an entertaining match for probably 200 or so people outdoors there. So it was a lot of fun. They've got their next big event October 8th, which I will be announcing. So it should be a great time. What do you got coming up soon, Will?
This weekend is going to be super busy. Friday, I will be in King, North Carolina, the Stokes County Fair. I'll be wrestling a really good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, Dave Saunders and stuff for USIWF at the Stokes County Fair. And then Saturday, I'll be making my it's been 4 years since I've wrestled in Asheboro, North Carolina. I was making my return to Asheboro, North Carolina for CWS Asheboro. I have no idea who I will be wrestling yet. But as soon as I get done with that, and that's an early show, because later on that night, that evening, I will be in Hickory, North Carolina, wrestling Terry Houston for NAPW. It's my first time there at this company and stuff. I know a lot of the guys that work there. I've heard a lot of good things about the company and stuff, so I will be there Saturday night in the main event at the Hickory National Guard Armory. And then Sunday, I'm so excited about Sunday. I'll be in Jeffersonville, Indiana for PWF, Pro Wrestling Freedom. It's a Mickey Knuckles benefit show. I'm super excited, not only because of my match, the match that just got announced a couple of hours ago that I will be in, but for the fact that, you know, we're doing a great thing for a really great lady. I don't know if have you ever met Mickey Knuckles before, Zane?
I have not had the pleasure.
Oh my God, Mickey Knuckles is one of my she's my second favorite female wrestler on the indies right now. With obviously my favorite being last week's guest, Mickey Knuckles. I'm sorry, with last week's guest, Casey Carlisle. Mickey Knuckles is such a great lady. She's been a mentor for so many people that a lot of fans don't realize. She gives out so much great advice to so many guys and stuff, man. Not only me and Joe Black, but, you know, Aaron Epic, Team IOU, Jesus, Daniel Eads, a lot of guys in the Midwest. Everybody loves her. Of course, she's the on-air daughter of Tracy Smothers and stuff. But I mean, you know, she just had like very extensive surgery and stuff, man. So a lot of guys, not only from the Midwest, not only from like Ohio and Tennessee and Indiana, but like I'm traveling from North Carolina. Chip Day and a couple other guys, and Adrian Armour and stuff are traveling from Georgia. I know there's some guys coming from Florida for this. So it's going to be like a huge gathering of friends and stuff, all putting together a show for one lady who has helped all of us out in one way or another, whether it's because of a smile or a joke or actual advice or, you know, her putting somebody over and stuff and telling the promoter, hey, you need to bring these guys in and stuff. You need to give these guys a look. We're all getting together and stuff and actually doing this benefit show for her and stuff and just giving back.
Do you know who you're working with that night?
Oh, yes. Of course I do, man. I just shared the post. It's me, excuse me, versus, you know, Bull Bronson, the Man of Tomorrow, Daniel Eads, who I've been dying to work with since I met him in Memphis, Tennessee, like 2 years ago, and Cashflow, who's another great talent down there at PWS and stuff. It's going to be 4 huge, big guys. I don't know. They're going to probably have to get like the old school WrestleMania 20, the WrestleMania ring, or the WrestleMania 3 ring was like 22 feet or something like that. They're going to have to pull that ring out of storage or whatever, because I have no idea how they're going to get all of us in that ring at one time and the ring not break. I'm 270 pounds. Daniel Eads is a good 240, 250. Bull Bronson is pushing 300. I know Cashflow is pushing Bull Bronson's pushing 300 almost. I know Cashflow is almost 300. He's about between 270, 280, you know, so you got a bunch of super heavyweights, 4 super heavyweights in the ring right now. So we're probably going to mess up some stuff.
Well, what time does this start on Sunday in Jeffersonville?
Say that again?
What time is it on Sunday in Jeffersonville?
Hold on, man. Let me look at I'm looking at the flyer right now. The show starts at 2. I'm sorry, yeah. The show starts at like 2 o'clock, man. You need to be there.
I will try. It's a couple hour drive for me, which I know it's a lot longer drive for you, but I will definitely try and work my magic to be down there. And Killer Kev, you should come down too.
Well, we'll have to see what I can do.
Okay.
Kev, how close do you live to Louisville? Is that how you pronounce it? Louisville?
Louisville, yeah. I'm about 2 hours away.
Is that east or west?
It's west of me.
Okay, well, I'm about to say, Kev, I'm going to be like so where I'm going to be at Saturday night, I want to say that Jeffersonville is only going to be 7 hours for me. So it's not that bad, really. I got to leave there about 4 o'clock. So, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, if you want to meet up with me in Louisville, Kev, we can definitely ride into the show together and stuff. I don't care.
Okay.
I think Kevin's like, no. I'm not being stuck in the car with you.
Will, I want you to do me a favor. If Tracy Smothers, who's going to be there, if he needs somebody to walk out with a Confederate flag with him, I want you to be able to go be his valet for that evening.
You mean you want to be his manager, man? You don't want to be a valet as a female.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misspoke there.
You can be his flag bearer. How's that sound?
Yes. No, I want you to be his flag bearer.
I'm not going to be... You want me to be Tracy Smothers' flag bearer?
Yes. He always picks a wrestler in the locker room that you wouldn't think would be carrying a Confederate flag. So
if it comes up, Zane, I will. If he asks me to, I will not say no. How's that sound?
Okay,
I'm not gonna.
Does
that work? Okay.
What's going on at? You posted something earlier about Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. Tell our listeners what that's all about.
Oh my goodness! So AWE, because of the owner Stan Robinson stuff, because he's a punk ass. He canceled the shows for September. And that's not even like a storyline. That's actual work. Like, he legitimately canceled the September show. But AWE is making this return and stuff after, what seems like forever, next month, October 23rd. And they just announced like one of the premier matches, that's going to happen, at the upcoming show. It's going to be Martin Stone, who is, Martin Birch on NXT, versus CWC, the Cruiserweight Classic Final Four competitor, and probably one of the greatest wrestlers to come out of Great Britain, Zack Sabre Jr. will be facing each other. I am super excited about this match. Excuse me. Martin Stone, in my opinion, is one of the greatest, if not, he's definitely one of the greatest indie wrestlers out right now. The matches I've seen, I've never seen him have anything less than a spectacular match. His matches can be a main event. The matches that he's had with Tommaso Ciampa and Jimmy Rave and Adrian Armour and Chip Day and even my good buddy Joe Black and stuff, the matches that he's put on and stuff, have been nothing less than 5-star. I've never seen this guy have even a decent match. Every match that he's ever had has always been a spectacular match. And the fact that he's wrestling his countryman, Zack Sabre Jr., who has just had, some of the best matches of his career and stuff on the WWE network and stuff. It's such a great thing and stuff. I advise anybody who's ever wanted to see, I don't even know what to expect really, man. I'm telling you right now, like, everybody's talking about it. When it was announced and stuff, of course, myself, I called up the office and stuff at AWE and I was like, yo, is this a joke? Is this actually happening? Are you actually bringing in Zack Sabre Jr. and having him work on Martin Stone's show? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. I don't even know if I want to be there now. There's no way that, I'm just saying there's no way that anybody else is going to be able to top that match. Even though I know at AWE, it's very competitive. Back in the locker room, it's very competitive and everybody's trying to have the best match possible. But there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do to top that match. I'm expecting for it to be almost like some Rocco Rollerball versus Johnny Saint type stuff, man. Like the amount of chain wrestling and reversals and agility and high flying and just the intricate, moves that they're going to be able to do with each other is going to be outstanding. Man. Anybody, I'm going to say right now, anybody that's within 4 to 5 hours of Atlanta needs to be at that show. Any young wrestler who's not wrestling that Sunday needs to be at that show. That is going to be match to see. I think that's going to be a match that people are going to be talking about. It's going to become one of those cult classic matches, man, that fans and actual wrestling fans are going to be talking about for decades.
All right, you heard it here on the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Everybody needs to check that out. Killer Kev, you informed me of some news earlier today about the Ryback. Can you tell our listeners what's going on with the Ryback?
I haven't looked very much into it, but apparently Ryback is trying to legally change his name to Ryback.
Following in the Ultimate Warrior's shadow, and he changed his name legally to Warrior. But as far as I know, Ryan Allen Reeves is changing his name to Ryback Allen Reeves. so that way he can use the name Ryback on the independent circuit. Will, what are your thoughts on Ryback changing his name to Ryback?
Oh, Jesus. First of all, I understand why, because, that's to the average wrestling fan, they'll know who Ryback is instead of, his actual name and stuff. So I guess, yes, it's understood. I can agree with it because, as a performer, you want to go under whatever name is going to make you the most money, whatever name has the most, popularity or whatever. But it's a hard one. In my opinion, I've never liked the name Ryback anyway. I've never liked them calling him Ryback. His actual name actually sounds better to me than Ryback. When he was coming out as first as NXT is way better than Ryback. Ryback's it sounds like something my 9-year-old would have came up with and stuff, man. But, that's his thing. If that's what he chooses to do, if he thinks that this is going to be the best career move for him, then go ahead, be my guest. But I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think that Ryback is such a big name, or that he was such a big star in WWE, that he's going to be such a huge draw in the Indies, that whether he goes by Ryback or his actual name, that people are going to flock regardless. I really don't think that it's going to be that big of a deal. I think it's 6 in one hand and half a dozen in the other, really.
Well, I have not had a chance to listen to it, but I've heard really good things about his new podcast. So maybe I think it's great that he's keeping himself out there, and I look forward to meeting him at the end of October at Heroes and Legends. So maybe I'll have a chance to talk to him about it personally. Other big story this past week outside of the ring, this time it's in the Octagon, the CM Punk UFC fight. Did you have a chance to watch that?
Yes, I did watch the CM Punk fight, and I was completely disappointed. Oh, man, I was so disappointed in that match.
Well, tell our listeners.
The reason why I was disappointed in the CM Punk fight is because it doesn't look like CM, the way he was taken down so easily, the way, Mickey Gall was just able to maneuver and get around his guards and all that stuff. It didn't look like CM Punk had actually done any kind of full contact sparring, during his training camp. It looked like, he looked like a complete amateur, and it looked like he should have known better. In my opinion, he should have done better. They should have prepared him more for what he was to experience. And then the takedown that Mickey Gall did to CM Punk, really, in my opinion, wasn't even that impressive. It was pretty amateur. It was very sloppy looking. There were several times in that match where I felt like, and this is coming from me, I'm not one of the fucking biggest MMA, fans out there. I don't really, I watch MMA and I follow it for the most part, but I'm a casual MMA, fan. But even I could tell there were several times in there that if, CM Punk would have had more experience, he could have won that fight from the bottom. Mickey Gall left himself over to a lot of different moves that could have been utilized and stuff if CM Punk would have had more experience, if he would have had more training, if they would have prepared him they would have prepared him better for that. But with that being said, I don't think that, him losing his first fight is that big of a deal. And everybody remembers Brock Lesnar lost his first fight to Frank Mir, and they came back for the rematch and totally pummeled his ass. So I don't think that we can judge CM Punk on this first fight. I think that we have to wait until at least the second or third fight to say whether or not this was a huge mistake for him, if this was a flop, if he's going to be a bust as far as MMA goes.
Yeah, but a couple interesting things that came out of that. It was reported today that fight it had between 650,000 to 700,000 buys, which is not as big as Brock Lesnar's last fight, but it also didn't have as big of an undercard. And they said that the prediction was anywhere around 270,000 buys, and it did 650 to 700,000 buys. So a lot of pro wrestling fans tuned in, paid money to watch that. So obviously that was a success for UFC. Whether they invite him to come back again, who knows? It's also been reported that his purse for the fight was $500,000, and that's not even including the pay-per-view bonuses that the fighters receive. So he did make a lot of money for 2 minutes and 14 seconds worth of work. So good on him. And I've seen a lot of mixed reaction from pro wrestlers on social media. A lot of people saying that he did them proud because he got into the Octagon. So it is what it is. I'm not a huge MMA fan, so I can't really talk about it too much. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That guys were the mixed reactions on Facebook and stuff. I think that it's the guys that were talking shit about CM Punk were like, that's what he gets. He, what I'm saying? Like, I bet you he'll come back to begging Vince now. Like, these are the same guys who were begging, were laughing when everybody thought that TNA was about to close and was like, I can't wait till TNA shut down. Those are guys that I can't understand even why you even in this business. You're not supportive to the business or to the boys at all. So, to everybody that's being negative about CM Punk, like you said, remember, when it's all said and done, he worked the system. He took his popularity from pro wrestling and made $500,000 in 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? In 2 minutes and 14 seconds, he made $500,000, not including his part of the purse. That's not even, I don't think that's including his sponsorship deals either. Is it, Zane?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. So we can just go ahead and say he made $500,000 a minute, at least. Because I'm pretty sure Reebok is giving him at least $500,000 of stuff to endorse their merchandise. So he made $500,000 per minute to get his ass whooped. For $500,000 for every 60 seconds, Zane, I would let you kick me in my nuts repeatedly for 2 fucking minutes.
I think I can handle that if somebody wants to sponsor that deal. So, well, I know we need to wrap up soon, but I just wanted to mention with AJ Styles winning this past weekend, he is the new WWE World Champion. We have Kevin Owens as the WWE Universal Champion, and we've got Shinsuke Nakamura as the NXT Champion. Previous to that, NXT Champion was Samoa Joe. Universal Champion was Finn Balor, and the WWE World Champion was Dean Ambrose. Can we officially say, and you talked about this a little bit with Nate Mattson, can we officially say that the gigantic superstar champion is officially over?
Exactly. We can definitely say that the era of the 6'8", 320-pound giant is gone. It doesn't, no longer is that a requirement to be a professional wrestler. Now you have to have a look, you have to have personality, you have to be able to talk, and you got to be able to, you got to be a business, you have to be a snake oil salesman, you got to be able to sell yourself to the fans. Side note real quick, Zane, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm going to brag about it on our podcast. If you look at NXT, they have 4 champions, correct?
They have the NXT Men's Champion, NXT Women's Champion, and then the tag team champions.
Okay. Out of those 4 champions, 2 of the champions are from Japan, 2 of the champions are from North Carolina. So I'm going to go ahead and say right now that the best wrestlers in the world come from Japan and North Carolina. Just I would say that.
That is definitely a point. That is a point for North Carolina there.
Thank you very much.
Will, is there anything that you need to discuss before we wrap up?
What are you talking to me or Kev?
I said to you. Is there anything that we need to discuss before we wrap up?
No, not even. All I was going to say is, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to this podcast and stuff, thank you once again for listening to the podcast. Thank you for following the Undisputed Wrestling Show. And if you get a chance, please do whatever you can. Contact, Pro Wrestling Freedom, aka PWF, on social media and stuff. And if you can, whether it's $1 or $1,000, please help donate to the benefit show for Mickey Knuckles and stuff. Whatever you can do. Like I said, whether it's $1 or $2, whether it's $1,000, whatever you can donate, please donate and help out the great lady and stuff who's done so much for myself and other people.
Well, that is excellent.